Back in October of 2012, two guys walked into the bank in small town Maynard, Iowa. Walked in there wearing masks over their faces, carrying AK-47 rifles and handguns. They robbed the bank. They left the bank, took off in a vehicle. We ended up with two officers that were wounded. One of them was the Sumner, Iowa police chief, Dennis Kane. Fortunate enough to work about every aspect of a sheriff's office that you can, all the way up from patrol, all the way up through being primary investigator on major cases. Primary investigator were homicides. I worked several of those. I was one of the ones that processed the crime scene where the two girls that were taken from Evansdale were recovered. Was involved in bank robbery investigations, officer-involved shooting investigations, quite a few sex crime cases, child pornography cases. I actually still have two federal child porn cases that are still currently running, and pretty much the gamut of anything that a criminal investigator could be involved in, I was involved with at one time or another. When they left that bank, a civilian gentleman by the name of Bill Kime actually spotted them, was part of the fire department in one of the small towns over there, so he had a fire radio with him. He heard the broadcast about the description of the vehicle, and he happened to see it drive by. He started following it, and one of the people that was involved in that car was a guy by the name of Jeremiah Mumford. Mr. Mumford had the driver stop the car. He got out, he opened up on Mr. Kime's truck with an AK-47, firing multiple rounds into Mr. Kime's vehicle. Now, nobody was going to mistake Mr. Kime's vehicle for an undercover law enforcement vehicle. It's a beat-up, old, red, faded-out looking pickup truck. There's no way that Mr. Mumford thought this was an undercover, unmarked car following him. And he opened up on him with an AK. I can't tell you how many rounds he fired at Mr. Kime. I can tell you how many rounds hit Mr. Kime's vehicle. Okay, he took rounds through the windshield, he took rounds through the hood of the vehicle, he took rounds through the front end of the vehicle, including the bumper. All right, fortunately, none of them hit Mr. Kime. But he's fearing for his life. Obviously, he lays down in the seat, slams the truck into reverse, and he's just trying to get out of Dodge. He wants to get out of the kill zone. He's backing through the ditch, running over trees, rocks, and everything else. Once they got tired of shooting at Mr. Kime, or he got out of range, they got back in their car and they took off again. Fayette County deputy, sheriff, gets behind him. So what do you think he's going to do now when the cops get behind him? Starts firing the AK again, chasing down the road, full speed, firing out the back window, shooting at the cops. Fortunately, that officer, his vehicle was only disabled. Other officers got involved, and other officers were not as lucky. We ended up with, I think we had 8 shot-up squad cars. Next round that comes through the windshield, shatters the microphone in his hand, shatters his thumb, basically severs his thumb off his hand, fragments, hits him in the neck, the chest, and the upper arm. He's hurt bad. He's hit additionally with other rounds subsequent to that. He's able to get his vehicle stopped. A DOT enforcement officer pulls up behind him, and one of our deputies pulls up behind him. I believe in my mind that those two officers saved his life, kept him from bleeding out. The bad guys kept going, and they kept shooting. They continued shooting at officers every opportunity that was presented. Literally every officer that pulled up behind that car got shot at. Okay. The next officer that got wounded was a trooper out of the Charles City area by the name of Mark Domino. Mark Domino actually takes a round through the windshield and it goes through his right bicep. Okay. Mark continues in the pursuit. He does not stop. At that point, he's the only officer on the ground that has visual on these guys. We have an aircraft overhead at this point, but Mark knows he's the only one on the ground. He knows if he stops, we're not going to have anybody on the ground keeping track of these guys. So he continues on in the pursuit. He calls into his dispatcher, "I'm hit." Dispatcher calls back and says, "What do you mean? Are you hit or is your car hit?" "No, I'm hit, but I'm going to keep going." So he continues on. He actually returns fire. The bad guys continue shooting at him. Okay? He actually returns fire with a duty rifle. And actually remains as part of the pursuit up to the point where the suspects wreck their car and bail out into the woods and take off on foot.